1-hour period.
There you go.
Ready, go.
And in case you forget your name, we're right there. I am Giselle Bundchen. That's what you're supposed to do, right? I'm looking in the mirror. Should I be Claudia Schiffer? I think I'm better off trying to be Chelsea Canty at this point in my life. So I am Chelsea Canty. I'm going to tell myself that every morning. All right, let's start looking forward. This is the third and final panel on today. Will be hosted by Christina Blacker, FanDuel TV. She does a fantastic job. Let's hear it for Christina. Right next to her, all the way in from New York, we have Karen Chavez, the general manager from the New York race Chaplaincy. Next to her, I'm sorry for you sports fans out here, but we have Catherine Iste, the Chief Administration Officer for the LA Chargers. Let's hear it for the Chargers. Chanel Minnifield, she is a trainer and entrepreneur. She does an awful lot of stuff, and she just started up Zen therapy right here in LA, so she can tell you a little bit more. Zen Heart.
Yes,
Zen Heart here in LA. She can tell you more about that later on. We already spoke about Annise Montplaisir, or Montplaisir, as she likes to call herself. We already went through this once earlier. She is the co-founder and executive director of Amplify horse racing, something I'm sure we'll speak about more a little bit later. You have 59 minutes plus 15 for a Q&A. Take it away, Christina.
Thank you. And now that the clock is really staring at me. Third and final panel, and thank you for everyone who has stuck around with us today. The title of our panel is Looking Forward. And so we want to sort of build off of what we've heard already today in the first two panels. We want to think about how we are engaging underrepresented stakeholders in our industry and how we create some of those entry points to bring new people in. I can tell you I've had the chance to already talk to the ladies a little bit. We had a Zoom call. I called them all individually. And if I had to try and find a common thread, these women are go-getters. They are doers. They are creators. They see a void. They fill it. They have an idea. They make it happen. So I know you guys will enjoy hearing from them as much as I have enjoyed getting to know them. So we're going to start by just letting them introduce themselves a little bit more and kind of telling you about their work, because as we are unified in this idea, everybody has a very different job. So Annise, if you'd like to go first, tell us a little bit about yourself, about Amplify, and about your connection to horse racing.
Hi everyone, I'm Annise, and I co-founded an organization that is called Amplify Horse Racing. So we aspire to be the youth and young adult national arm of the thoroughbred industry. So we're still relatively new, we're growing, so I'm really thrilled to be here today and to be able to speak to all of you about it. I'm originally from Fargo, North Dakota, which is not really the first place that you would think of when you think horse racing, but we do have two tracks in North Dakota, the good old North Dakota Horse Park, which is my home track, and Chippewa Downs. And getting involved in racing in North Dakota gave me a tremendous first step to be able to get going, and aspired to have a career in the industry from there, which I'm sure we'll kind of expand on as we go along, but that's me.
Chanel, a little bit about Let's Ride, about Zen Heart, and about yourself.
Hey everybody. Everybody looks gorgeous today. So my name is Chanel Minnifield, and I'm a co-founder of Zen Heart. And I also have a therapeutic riding program called Let's Ride. And so Zen Heart our mission is to reduce the barrier of entry for the BIPOC community to be in the equestrian world, as far as like on the competitive side of the equine world. So I'm an equestrian, I'm a trainer, and I'm a rider as well. And then on the therapy side, I have Let's Ride, which is just all about, mental health and those different things. But you know what? Let me go back for a second. On Zen Heart, we also focus on the aftercare of thoroughbreds, because we only use off-the-track thoroughbreds. Because I was about to be like, now why am I up here? I'm up here because I'm all about off-the-track thoroughbreds. And then I have the equestrian therapy side of it as well. And I guess also just like really quickly, I'm gonna throw this in here. Your girl's going to the 2028 Olympics as the first black girl to be a show jumper for the USA team. We're gonna dive into that, so y'all just hang on, okay?
You got Team Chanel, that is for sure. Catherine, a little bit about yourself and about your role.
Why do I have to go after her? I'm sitting next to Chanel, so I have energy. She's just going to give me all this energy. My name is Catherine Iste. I'm the, as they said, Chief Administrative Officer for the Charters. That is not how I identify myself for sure. More for the last, I'd say, 20 plus years. I've run a company that focuses completely on going into, as Amy said, where the fires are, going into where there are problems, and leveraging those challenges to make change. And most of the time, like 99% of it, I'm working in male-dominated industries, and I'm just finding a woman to fix stuff and like get them in there of all kinds. And so that's been my focus for the last several decades, and I believe that's why I'm here. Although I do know a lot about playing surfaces and turf, and I do know a lot about player health. We just have slightly different players and turf surfaces.
Slightly different athletes.
Yep.
Slightly
Karen?
different sizes.
Exactly.
And Karen.
My name is Karen. I'm from New York. I represent the New York Racetrack Chaplaincy. And what our organization does is we provide social, recreational, educational, and spiritual services to all the people that work in the backstretch, in the front side, in the back side, in the parking lot, all over the racetrack. Our services extend to even the families of the people that work at the track. And I'm the general manager. I'm also the women's coordinator for all of the programming that we have available to them and their daughters, which I'll talk about later. I've been involved in the horse racing industry for about 20 years, so I started when I was like 5 years old.
Didn't we all? Annise, I want to start our conversation with you. And as I've said to the ladies up here, we're going to just have a conversation. If they want to jump in at any point, certainly please do so. I'll echo what Michelle mentioned in the last panel. If you do have a question and you want to jump in, please let us know. We're happy to answer those questions as they come along. But I think the last question we had from panel 2 from one of our guests was about entry. How do you get involved in horse racing? And Annise, you're a perfect example of someone that didn't have a family connection to it to begin with. You were inspired, you loved horses, and now you've taken that entry point and created it for others. Can you talk a little more about Amplify and about the programs that you offer if anyone wants to get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So Amplify is still relatively new. We started as a grassroots organization in 2019. We got our 501c3 in 2020, which was a great time to fundraise for a nonprofit. But I would say the story of Amplify started much earlier on. So I came from an area that was not a horse racing hub. My co-founder, her name is Madison Scott. She's originally from Austin, Texas, also not a horse racing hub. And so I'd say that both of our stories were reflective of a lot of young people who get into the industry, and that there hasn't really been a distinct pathway for a young person to be able to follow. There isn't a step one, you start here, and these are the steps that you're going to take from here. So between the two of us, Ruffian was mentioned in the book, Ruffian, Burning from the Start. I became interested in racing. I accidentally watched the movie Ruffian one day. When I was 12 years old. And after that, it was game over. I got the book Ruffian, Burning from the Start. I don't know where Michelle went, but yes, it is an amazing book. And from that point on, I knew that I wanted to work in racing. The question was just, how do I do that? Madison started with Smarty Jones. She turned on the TV one day and watched Smarty Jones lose the Belmont. Which is, not a super happy start, but she fell in love with Smarty Jones, and that was her passion horse. And so from there, it was really, cold calling, Googling things online, trying to watch racing where we could. And I'll say, fortunately for me, a big part of what guided my pathway, when I was 13, I was a volunteer racetrack ambassador at the North Dakota Horse Park. The general manager at the time shared a post on Facebook with me about a program called Godolphin Flying Start, which is a 2-year thoroughbred industry management course. It would have been much earlier on at the time. The program just hit its 20-year anniversary. And she said, hey, you should really do this someday. It involves traveling the world. You get to learn about horse racing. You go to all these different countries. You study the industry. And to me, that was suddenly like, okay, this is my pathway. This is what I want to do. I'm going to gather as much information as I can to figure out how I get here. So it was internships, moving across the country, sending emails, asking people for advice. And that just isn't, to be able to get involved in the industry, that pathway has to be so much more clear. But for many of you, I'm sure that that's probably not dissimilar from your own stories. Maybe it was a certain horse you found inspiring. Maybe it was a certain person that you met who inspired you to get involved. Maybe it was a parent who took you to the racetrack from time to time, and then you just happened to figure out what the next steps were from there. So the idea for Amplify came about with the goal of creating that first step for youth and young adults to get involved in the industry, whether that's pursuing a career, becoming a more engaged and educated fan, maybe they want to become an owner. But an important piece of that was to amplify existing opportunities, recognizing that there are incredible organizations that are out there. I know there might be some people in the audience who benefited from Kids to the Cup when that was around. There's the Kentucky Equine Management Internship. The Ed Brown Society is doing amazing work. So how can we amplify all of these educational and workforce opportunities nationally and then fill in the gaps with other programs, which we've done through mentorship, behind-the-scenes tours, creating curriculums, things like that. So
did you find that the racing community immediately embraced this idea? And as you were making those cold calls and trying to do your fundraising, was it a yes or was it an uphill battle?
It was definitely an uphill battle for a while, and I have a kind of a funny story to share. There was a question earlier about was there ever a stopping point that was asked to the other panels, or was there ever a point that you felt like you needed to stop? So in 2020, we had a board member at the time, somebody who I tremendously respect. We had just formed our board, and this individual was going to help us raise, hopefully hundreds of thousands of dollars to get this, on its feet, to get me fully employed with Amplify. And so I was guns blazing, like, this is going to be my job. I'm going for it. I had just graduated from Flying Start. It was the pandemic. And then that individual gave me a call one day and said, I actually don't think you're ready for this. So I'm not going to help you with the fundraising. You need to do something else for a while. And I had this amazing community of other mentors and colleagues who really rallied around me to help figure out an alternative of how do we get this going? How do we give it legs? How do we get you more experience? And in the end, I raised all the money myself to get it fundraised with the help of some incredibly supportive board members. So there have been no's along the way, and there have been a lot of yeses, but the challenges are good too because it just gives you more experience.
Catherine, I'm curious, just because we were talking horse racing here and the entry point, but for the NFL, there's so many people that are passionate about football. Are there programs along the lines of an Amplify where those opportunities are being created and those entry points are there?
Yes. So Lisa talked a little bit about the league, the NFL, and the commissioner this morning. I think there are some parallels in kind of where that league was and where she's setting things up now. So for us, the league, as the kind of franchise owner, says what they want us to do, but then each of the 32 clubs has to decide how. And so when they come to us and they say, you need to focus on diversity initiatives or inclusion initiatives or figure out how to do more community outreach, well, the outreach at Green Bay is a little different than the outreach in LA. So we have to figure out how we're going to do it. So our programs here are going to be different than the other 31 clubs. What we tend to do is actually along the lines of what Annise was saying. We have a very big, very free-oriented program. You think we have a lot of money, but we don't spend it on those kinds of things. We spend it on other stuff, where we go out into the community and we make sure that students in the high school level and lower even understand that there are more jobs in football than playing football, which you all have. I mean, there's just, I don't know, is anybody in here actually riding? Besides my colleague right here, there's all these other jobs, but people think of football and they're like, you're either calling the game or you're out in the field, and there's just so much more to it than that. There are accountants, there are people in the background. So understanding that there's an industry around it, so we do have programs for that. And then our other thing that at least I'm very passionate about, and I try to do anywhere where I go, is understand kind of where people are at and make sure we meet them there. So where if I want to have more senior leadership on the business side, well, it's a lot easier to go out and find a controller who is a woman, because women have been doing accounting for a long time. If I want to go find a female coach or a female scout, there's no path. So instead of trying to go find that person or just saying I can't find anybody, we make up jobs. So we go down to the highest person we can find and we make up a job for that person. And so, for example, we have someone who just became a scout. She was a coordinator. And she was a coordinator doing something else that was an easy foot in the door job. And then there wasn't quite the scout job yet. So we made that interim job to ensure that we're building her and supporting her where she's at and getting her up in the ranks so that she can do the next thing.
One of the things that I know you focus on, and I think this leads into some of the inspiration for Chanel as well, is mental health. Can you talk to us, Catherine, just a little bit more about the mental health programs that the NFL has created from that need and from some crisis over the last few years?
Definitely from crisis, definitely part of the draw for me and being in the league and working for this club is just they are leveraging opportunity. So most of the places where I go, there isn't as much money and power as there is in the NFL. It's quite an amazing and impressive machine to generate any kind of response to anything. I mean, we just quell it. It's amazing. But from the club level, whenever we think about, again, how we're going to do it when they tell us, what we've done is again, kind of more grassroots. Like you're saying, we've tried to bring everyone together. We have our training department, we have our medical team, we have our nutrition, you have all these same players, but we've now, just for this first year, we've hired a director of player health, wellness, and performance. And all of those pieces are under that person. And that person came from those teams, so they understand they're all speaking the same language. And just that, which seemed so groundbreaking for us, but seems like common sense when you say it, of course. I mean, why wouldn't you just put someone in charge of that and have that whole group together? And then we've taken it one iteration further, where we've added our team chaplain, our team psychologist, and our team chaplain comes with his wife, they're a great partnership, as well as our head of player engagement, who helps with the players' kind of personal side of things. And we've added them to that team as well, so that they all get the same training in the sense of, what is awareness when it comes to where could there be issues? How can we be preventative? Where can we listen? Because now we've got the entire front line of people who are dealing with our talent on the field, and listening, understanding, and looking for things, and then forced to collaborate. At this moment, they're not used to it, but forced to collaborate and understand that they can help each other with that same person.
Chanel, I know that diversity, equity, inclusion, mental health, the therapies, these are big influences and inspirations for both of your nonprofits.
Absolutely.
Where did that initially start with you? And have you found it easy, or have you found it challenging to bridge the gap between the eventing, the show jumping world, and the thoroughbred world?
Yeah, so I want to first start with diversity and inclusion, right? Because that's really big for all of us, I would say, that's sitting here in this room. And when I think about diversity and inclusion, the first word that comes to my mind is accountability, right? To have diversity and inclusion, we all have to be accountable. And so, you all have to do your part as much as we have to do our part when we think about diversity and inclusion. And so when I talk about, Zen Heart and the creation of Zen Heart and, wanting to have a mission for the BIPOC community to be inside of the equine world and use thoroughbreds, because I also put thoroughbreds in that diversity and inclusion as well when I think about the competitive side of the equestrian industry. The equine industry is at a space in its time where it says, we want to be more diverse, right? Everybody is saying we want to be more diverse, but there is not somebody that's on my side that's saying, hey, okay, I'll be that diversity, but that's me. I will, When we think about accountability, there becomes a responsibility, and I've been riding my entire life. I rode, so I've been a competitive rider ever since I was 7, and I'm an upper level eventer. And so the reason why I decided that, we need Zen Heart, we need somebody that is of color to be in the Olympics, is because we've never seen it. And the reason why it took me so long to decide to be a professional horseback rider, which just happened just 5 years ago, even though I've been riding competitively ever since I was 7, is because I never saw anybody that looked like me. So I didn't know that it was possible. I didn't know that that was a space for me and that the industry wanted me, right? And so it's now time for 2028, for somebody to open up the door, because I have a whole community and a whole culture of people that are behind me who also may be little girls or little boys who love horses just as much as I did, but didn't know that this could be a career for them. Whether that's being on the riding side or, being on the track side or anywhere inside the equine world, but it's time for us to say, hey, open up that door and say, hey, we want you, there's a space for you, and you belong here too. And so what better to do it than on a stage where everybody's going to see it, right? It's time for the world to see a black rider in the USA Olympics on the show jumping side, because in 2024, we're going to have Anna Bofina, I believe that's her name, in the dressage world, and then the next Olympics we're going to have Chanel Minnifield on the show jumping side, and it's just about starting that train of saying, of opening up the door and letting everybody know that we belong here and this is what we need to do as well. And then when we think about a thoroughbred, I don't know if anybody's actually knows much about a competitive equestrian world, like show jumping hunters or anything like that. I'm pretty sure most of you all do, because if you're on the horse side, you probably rode a horse at some point in your life. You didn't just wake up and just watched a horse movie and said, I'm obsessed with horses, right? Most of you all touched a horse, sat on a horse, maybe rode horse, was a hunter jumper at some point, right? Well, on the competitive side of it, you see a lot of European horses, right? And we have a responsibility and a responsibility for our American thoroughbreds to say there's a space for you as well after the racetrack. And so that's the other mission of Zen Heart, is creating a passageway for that second career for a thoroughbred. So when I go to the 2028 Olympics, I'm not doing it just for my own community to say, hey, we belong in this sport too. I'm the first person, so now you can go on and do it as well. But I'm doing it with the thoroughbred, because they need to also know that thoroughbreds are ridiculously talented. I'm talking about when you get a thoroughbred, you are getting an off-the-track thoroughbred. I'm not even talking about just a thoroughbred that didn't race, but an off-the-track thoroughbred, we are talking about a broke horse. A horse that can trailer, that can clip, that can stand amongst chaos, that has traveled across the world. You're getting a sport car, and if you don't know what to do with it, yes, it might scare you. But let me tell you, you got a sport car. Who don't want a sport car, right? So I think that, we have a responsibility to our thoroughbreds to give them a second career as well. And they belong in the competitive show jumping world in the dressage circuit, and they also belong in the therapy world. Most of my therapy animals, not currently, but I've had in the past, were thoroughbreds, and they are the most sensitive, the off-the-track thoroughbreds at that, most sensitive, caring animals, breed that I've encountered, and I encountered a lot of breeds. A lot of them that tried to throw me off and roll me over, you know what I'm saying? But that thoroughbred, though, holds a very special place in my heart, and so I'm all about that second passageway for an off-the-track thoroughbred.
We talked about that all the time. There just needs to be more of a pathway to get more of our horses to their next career, because thoroughbreds want to please, and they can do anything. You see them in any other jurisdiction, and they continue to excel. So to your point, Chanel, we need to support the horses in the next step, but we also need to support the backbone of our industry, which is the men and women that are working morning, noon, and night, and all of the community that I know you serve in New York. Karen, can you tell us a little bit? And I want you to brag about your chaplaincy, because for anybody that's not familiar, the New York chaplaincy is the flagship. You guys do so much for your community, and I know you don't want to be a commercial, but you need to right now so that we have the opportunity just to understand how much work you guys are doing.
Yeah, I was just going to say, when you said everyone here rode a horse, I've never ridden a horse except for one time in the Pocono Mountains in Pennsylvania with my handsome husband on a romantic date. And I got the most quietest, oldest, nicest horse, supposedly. But for some reason, that day, the horse decided that he would go really, really fast. And I did my silent screams, because I don't scream. I try not to scream. And I was on that horse, and I'll never forget it. And I remember my husband was like, babe! And I'm like, so I'll never get back on a horse. My respect to the thoroughbreds. They are beautiful, but no thank you.
Chanel
no
will
more
take
horses
you for a
me.
riding lesson later.
Yes, I got you.
I love horses, but I'm a people person. I believe that I have a divine calling to help people. And for that reason, my life ended up the way it is right now. As a human being, you know that you need a backbone to be able to stand up, to be able to do what you have to do. If you don't have your backbone, you can't do what you need to do. In the same way, the racing industry, I believe the backstretch community is the backbone of the racing industry. There are over 1,000 people at Belmont Park alone, where I come from in New York, that live in the backstretch, that are taking care of the horses every single day, 365 days a year, 7 days a week. Many of them don't get a day off, and some of them do, and they still come back and feed the horses, and they want to be there. They love the animals. They're not afraid of the horses like I am, but they are serving the animals in the racetrack every single day. And because of that, we know that they need our support, and that's what the racetrack chaplaincy does. And we know that, that saying that goes, happy wife, happy life. And in the same way, if you have a happy employee in your barns taking care of your horses, you know that they're going to do a good job, that they're going to be happy and come back every day and take care of their horses. So the racetrack chaplaincy, what we do is we provide the services that I mentioned before, social, educational for them and their children, also recreational, because everybody needs a day off and something fun to do, right? We provide sporting opportunities for them. We have soccer leagues, basketball, and we're able to do that thanks to all the donations and the supporters that we have. We also have specific programs for the women, because when I first got to the racetrack, I noticed that there were so many women at the track in the barn areas that were working really, really hard, and there was no representation from on their behalf from anyone. And then I saw the work that they were doing, and I said, these women work so hard, and I don't think that they see any future. Like, they just do the same thing over and over and over and nothing else. So we began a program that provides empowerment, education, and encouragement for them to move on up in following their dreams, maybe going back to school. And I just have to say that after doing that program for over 15 years, we've seen women that have moved out of being just a hot walker to being assistant trainers, to be able to work in the front side in the offices. We've seen their daughters also follow suit because of their moms and go into college and getting a degree and coming back to the track and doing something even greater than their parents had been doing for so many years. So the program that I'm doing there, it's gotten a little popular. So we have gone to other tracks to be able to provide the service of implementing at no charge, no cost. We just want women to feel empowered, encouraged, and educated, and know that they can do anything that they set their minds to. And that's what I do in a nutshell. And then I realized I don't have any girls. I only have boys. I have 3 sons. But I noticed that the girls were the next generation coming up. And I'm like, okay, I can give the women empowerment and encouragement, and I can educate them. I can give them the tools they need, but then what happens to their girls, right? We want to also do the same for them because they're the next generation. And if we don't do it for them, then we'll have to enroll them in the women's program in the future. So then I said, rather than them being part of that program later on, let's start with them while they're young. So we have a girls mentoring program for girls 11 to 17. All these girls are daughters of backstretch workers. So we're starting them now, getting them ready. So when they get out of school, they're ready to come and if they want to, come back to the industry and work in whatever area, like you said before. There's so much more to racing than just riding a horse. Because, you look at yourself, you're like, I don't have the weight or the height to be a jockey, but I can do so many other things because it's such a large industry. So our programs do just that. We want to see more women be part of this industry, but also be educated and empowered to be able to do whatever they want.
How do you take the first step? Because I think in terms of the idea of the panel today, looking forward, if someone has an idea, whether it be the chaplaincy or in the NFL or whatever your business might be, how do you turn an idea into an action, and how do you strategize that from the beginning when you're creating a new program?
Well, that's gotten me into trouble a lot because I'm always coming up with ideas. So my boss always says to me, oh, that's a great idea, you should get it started. So I end up with a full plate and a lot of things to do. But I think places like this gives us an opportunity to network and meet people who are doing something that maybe clicks with what you're thinking of or what you're planning on doing. And Annise and I were talking earlier about, or yesterday, about the mentorship program and how, we can unite what I'm doing, what she's doing, and be able to provide more services to our girls at the track. But also, when I think of something new, I think the key is to, always survey, the people and the things and the area, what you're gonna present to them, what it is that it's needed, because every track is different. I can't go to your racetrack and do the same thing I'm doing in New York, because every need is different. The population, the culture is different. So yeah, I would say start with that survey, educate yourself first before moving forward into launching something new.
Annise, have you found the same in that with Amplify, as we heard from Claudia, you're traveling, you're going to these different racing jurisdictions. How do you start? How do you identify, whether it be California, Florida, New York, everywhere in between, what's needed in that specific place, and then take that first step?
Research has been a big part of it, and being in Kentucky with the industry being so concentrated there, we have so many industry-related businesses and organizations and farms and tracks. That has been the easiest area where I've found the most support to start and see our programming take root and then expand from there. So now we've started expanding to New York, but what Karen touched on with making sure you understand the population you're serving and really honing in on the problem, understanding how are young people who are working in the industry, how are they getting into the industry? What are the sources that they're going to for information, for inspiration? Where are they finding jobs? What are other countries doing? Actually, in June of this year, I spent 3 weeks traveling to England and Ireland, just speaking with other educational and workforce-driven organizations in the industry to learn what is working internationally, what can we take back home that can work for us, or how can we adapt that in a way. And that is what I've found has really helped with our growth.
Catherine, I would say the same question for you, because I know through your work, you often go into a company and can identify areas of weakness and then try to figure out, how do we fix this? How do we solve this problem? How does that go, and how do you point something out that might be a weakness without being offensive in a work environment?
I'm super offensive. Yeah.
It's really blunt and go for it.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm really, really expensive, and if everybody wants to talk about negotiating later, we can talk about that. But when I was doing direct consulting and running my firm, you weren't hiring me unless you had a lot of money and a really big problem, and I was referred by your lawyers. So that was a huge thing, and I think. Like with the league and like with what you deal with, you're around people with a lot of money, right? And you're like, but if you just took that tiny little bit and you put it over here, look at what you could do. And it can get super frustrating, but that's why I went in for where there were problems. Because anytime there's a problem, the bigger the opportunity to change it. Unfortunately, I've been in places where there are devastating problems like you all have faced in the last several years. I'm very public, or at least right before they became really public, in my case, when I'd go in. And so that allows me to be as blunt as I want to. And so it's just like, look, you got yourself into this, we can say shit, right? You got yourself into this shit, like how are we gonna fix it? And so leveraging that is definitely one way. When I'm not, and so first step in that is really understanding the landscape, seeing where there is that opportunity that you can seriously say, this problem happened and now we can do this, right? And it's going to specifically address this, but going forward, it's going to help these other things. Now, sometimes that's too big, and sometimes the people with the money are not asking you for your solution. So you're in a situation where you're like, oh, I can see all these obstacles, and I really just want to move them out of the way, and I can see all these problems. And in those cases where you're just kind of sitting there and you don't necessarily have the direct power to do it, but you can see it, and you have some sort of sphere of influence, even if it's just like one person sitting next to you. What if that one person sitting next to you is Chanel? Like, that's going to be amazing, but you got to find out. And so what I would definitely say my success in those areas has not been anything other than asking for forgiveness instead of permission and just doing it. So when you sit there and you go, Chanel, I've got this thing, and I think we can figure it out. I'm thinking it should go this way, but I'm not sure. What do you think? And then we do a pilot program, which is consisting of Chanel and I, and we do it. And then we see, and we collected data. And then we said, look, we've got data. We've done all this research. As Annise points out, research is how you can get more money. And so you just start building those little things. And again, forgiveness, not permission, has always worked really well for me, especially when there's people who aren't necessarily paying attention to what you're doing. You can just do it right under the radar until it gets big enough and you have enough data where you can say, hey, oh yeah, we've been doing that for a while. Here's a better way to do it. If you want to give us more money, we can do this too. And you'll get the credit.
How important is it? Because we talk a lot in thoroughbred racing, we don't have a unified governing body. How important is it in your experience to have the league, the commissioner, and a collective strategy when you are combating any kind of negative press, negative circumstances? How important is it to be unified as an industry?
Yes. Well, I mean, again, we're franchises and the league is the league, which is very powerful. So they're going to, again, say the what, and we're going to figure out the how. And it's very scripted. So they're very good at what they do. I will use the word machine again because they are. And that is important. But that's also not completely relatable a lot of times because you don't necessarily have that, right? So I'm going to go back in time to another organization I work with who were facing, they were in a place where they weren't regulated, and so they weren't all doing the same things. So I was working in private equity. It was about a couple decades ago, and it was before private equity was regulated in the sense of like a pay-to-play situation. And so I worked in a firm where I got called in for one problem, but then the other problem was there, and that other problem was, oh, those people are on the board of that state retirement thing, and those people are on the board of the city retirement thing, and so we were taking them out to lunch and we were doing all these things that your general common sense would say probably not ethical, but there was no rule against it, right? So what happened there, since there were no rules and there was no governing body, politics got involved. And while that can be a very bad thing because you can't control it, it did force the conversation. So at that time, this will be dating it specifically, Andrew Cuomo was the Attorney General of New York and Jerry Brown was the Attorney General of California. And they both, on their platforms when running for governor, leveraged the idea of regulating private equity so that there was no more pay to play. And as soon as they latched onto it, we then were like, that's a great idea. We'll donate millions to your fund and we will commit to ethical things. And so it switched the tone. But it was definitely something where as soon as that happened, change started coming. And it was like, yeah, we may have publicly kind of said, yeah, here's a bunch of money and don't let us get in trouble. But we had to do something next. And so in that case, where it was very embryonic, that organization that was going to govern us, it was a step in the right direction that the good people in the room took. And we kept using that as our cover, just like a lot of times we used COVID as our cover. And I've been using COVID as my cover for every mental health program that I've been doing because people have seen this is the big issue. So long-winded answer to say that whether you're in a very machine-oriented, just well-oiled machine like the league where it's a governing body or it's this embryonic thing, it's going to head in this direction. And the more, again, you can leverage that piece of the conversation, hey, look, we're going to get governed. It's here. We all saw Lisa. She exists. The organization exists. Let's start heading in that direction and be ahead of it instead of behind it. It's a much easier discussion.
Yeah, like you say, from the crisis comes the biggest opportunity for change because something has to happen at that point. We've talked a little bit about mental health, and Karen, I'm curious if you have programs that are available at the chaplaincy, whether it be New York or anywhere, because I think the hours that the backstretch community works, the early mornings, sometimes overnight, often families that are separated. How have you tried to combat that and support not only the women, but the men and the women that are working?
Yep, so we partner with local organizations and also with what happens within our county. And thanks to COVID, I guess, there are a lot of programs that came about, and some of them had to do with mental health and providing therapy and group sessions for people to be able to receive the services they needed. So we partnered with them, and we were able to provide via Zoom and as well as in person for everyone, teens, adults, everybody was benefiting from this program that we had in New York. And so that's the route that we took. I mean, we are a nonprofit organization, so we all the services we provide are 100% free to all our backstretch workers. And like I said, there are over 1,000 people living in the backside. So we try to find ways to be able to provide the best at no cost.
Chanel, for the therapy that you guys are offering, are people coming to you, or are you seeking individuals that might need help or organizations that might be lacking that resource?
I'm so glad you came to me because I was about to talk anyways, girl. I was like,
jump in.
Well, okay, so what I was going to say when I was going to just jump in was Let's Ride is right in the back pocket of Santa Anita, and so it would be wonderful for us to provide, therapy to any of the employees that work here, to the jockeys, to anyone. We had an influx of clients when COVID did happen. They were very young kids with high anxiety and things like that. But if no one's ever experienced equine therapy, it really works. It's a real thing. If you believe in magic, that's where the magic is with equine therapy, because horses in general are just such great animals, and they're just so magical that, I have literally witnessed a horse get a nonverbal, high autistic kid to speak. And so equine therapy is real, and it helps, and it does a gamut of things. It heals and cures a gamut of different kinds of mental health issues. But Let's Ride, we have been around for over 20 years. We are right in Sunland, Tahunga, and we do all different types of therapy, from facilitations to on the back therapy, hippotherapy, and off the back therapy. And so we've done group facilitations, we've done things for empowerment building inside of teams and companies and things. And so it's just a really great way to relieve stress. I'll tell you this really quickly. When I'd come home from school and I'd be in a really bad mood, my mom would immediately say, go to the barn, because I'd come back very happy. And that's the same way, that's how equine therapy works. And so if there's frustration, if anybody is not, performing at their highest level, go pet a horse. That's the thing for the day. Go pet a horse. You're going to be happy, and you're going to go back to work, and everything is going to, whatever was stressing you out, it's not going to stress you out the next day.
As basic as it sounds, can you tell us what happens in an equine therapy session? If I bring my 6-year-old, what happens?
Absolutely. So the first thing that we do is we identify, what maybe is the issue. So if you're coming in, you're saying, maybe my child is not paying attention well in school, or it's not something that's diagnosed. It's just something that you maybe just been able to identify, right? He's just not paying attention well, or anything like that. So the first thing that we do is, after we get that, then we go ahead and allow that child to be around all of our horses, and they just go out into the natural arena, and they just are there. They just be with the horses. And one really cool thing about the horses is that the horses pick that child. So you'll see some horses just say, I don't want to deal with that, energy's weird, whatever. But there's always one horse that decides to come up to that child. And as soon as that horse comes up to that child, whether that child might be terrified or whatever it may be, I've seen kids stand in that natural arena and just I don't want to touch the horse. And Miles, he's like, no, but touch me, please, just touch me. Out of all of the horses, just me. And after, as soon as they touch the horse, you can just see the whole release of whatever it is, the anxiety, the stress, the fear, whatever they came to the barn with, it's just gone. And then we end up getting them up onto the horse, and we start to work on communication. They have to talk to the horse. So we all of our riders ride verbally. So walk on, trot, canter, those things like that. Ho, whoa, they have to communicate to their horse. And then, if they are not paying attention well, we do a lot of different kind of games on top of the back, where they're having to just always change the focus. But the cool thing is that you also have to keep your balance. You're doing all these other things, right? But you're also having to stay on top of the horse and not fall, because the one rule over there at Let's Ride is, if you fall, you owe Chanel a vegan cake. And I want you to bake it too. So it's really just, different kinds of exercises that we do on the back, and just how they communicate with the horse. That's probably the biggest thing. When it comes to me and my students that I have inside of the therapy side, we do a lot of mirroring and reflecting on, you can't get this horse to go, why not? I wonder if that's how you treat your friends. Is this what you're doing at school? Are you trying to force people to do something that they don't want to do? Maybe you can try a new technique. So it's a lot of just, redirecting, refiguring out, and problem solving.
So many life lessons can be learned at the barn.
Yes,
I wrote my college essay about the barn, and
yes, yes,
convinced that's how I got into USC. Annise, I want to ask, and I actually want to ask everybody this question. What more needs to be done in your organization and just in the environment of creating a pathway for more young people to get into horse racing? If you had $1 million, handed to you tomorrow, what would you do with it? And what, if anybody's inspired to help you or to join this cause, what do you want to see going forward?
I'd hire a lot more people, so everybody give me your business cards. So, that would definitely be a big piece. Having more staff means that we can have a greater outreach. But eventually, even 5 to 7 to 10 years down the road, 10 years down the road, definitely, I want to be able to confidently say Amplify has a fully national educational outreach where we're serving a continuum of youth and young adults. So starting with having touch points for small children, 12 and under, to get them interested in horses in general, because that's the most special part of our sport. And really, if you think about it, when you go to a large city, if you don't have animals, if you don't have a dog or another pet at home, really the last two places you can go to actually see animals are a racetrack or a zoo. And so making sure that we have those touch points for kids to become interested in horses, getting engaged with educators is really important, and engaging with other organizations that are kind of low barriers to entry, such as 4-H or Future Farmers of America, FFA. Those youth are already relatively exposed to ag, or exploring other educational programs, whether it's working with inner city youth, where we can come to them and say, hey, we have this amazing product, let's bring your kids to a racetrack, or we have this curriculum that we can deliver to you, so that we're not expecting those teachers to seek us out. We're seeking them out and saying, hey, look at this incredible educational product that we can share with you. And then maintaining that through high school, starting to introduce other pathways for engagement, such as careers at the high school level, and then getting into college, internships, mentorship programs, and eventually into the workforce.
Chanel, same question. What more needs to be done? What would you do going forward?
Girl, I'm trying to rewrite the narrative, okay? I want to rewrite the narrative for thoroughbreds. I want to rewrite the narrative for the equine competitive world. I want to see in the next 5 years, I want to see more color in this room, first of all. I want to see more color in the show arena, and I want to see people vying for off-the-track thoroughbreds. I want people making connections with every single owner and racetracks and saying, I want Cantor to be like, we got a wait list. We don't got no horses, but if you need one, I'm going to get one to you. I want people to say, my next upper level eventer is going to be an off-the-track thoroughbred, or my next upper level show jumper is going to be an off-the-track thoroughbred, because the way I saw Chanel out there in that arena with that off-the-track thoroughbred, oh yes, that's what I need for a fraction of the price, right? That's the key right there, because we got to reduce that barrier.
I think people don't
insurance.
realize, they're giving away horses at this
Yes,
level.
exactly.
They're available. It's an opportunity for anyone that wants to.
Exactly, and it's truly the way
jump
to
in.
be in the competitive industry at a fraction of the price.
Catherine, what more needs to be done? And I'll take it just more broad, I guess, in terms of women as leaders, women in upper level positions in management, whether it's in your industry or in ours.
Sure, that's a great question. I love following Chanel. There's no
You guys
pressure
are going to start your own nonprofit.
I would definitely say, we are who we are. We've talked about it a lot today. It's been amazing to hear that the voice in my head is not crazy, and people were saying it out loud, and it didn't sound crazy at all. We are amazing at advocating for each other. So if you don't feel like standing up for yourself, just stand up for the girl sitting next to you, because we can do that. And it really only takes one of us. It takes one of us to reach and say, come on up. It takes one of us who's in power to, in this job, no one is paying attention to me. I will just tell you that right now. It's fantastic. I have no staff, no direction. I have no team, and I just do whatever I want. And that has been the best role I've ever had, because I have made up so many jobs. Since I've been there, we've got over half women. We had 2. It was me and the other lady who'd been there for 30 years, who was amazing. And now it's completely changed. Every level of our organization has women at equal than men. And that in the league, that's amazing. But I haven't quite told other people that yet, except for right now, because no one's paying attention.
Don't tweet that, just in case.
Which has been amazing. And they are all hiring these other women, and they come up with their great ideas. So my point is, even just me, and I'm not gonna be as awesome as our colleagues that were over there, but even just me as one person who doesn't care one bit about football, has it been able to change one club of 32 to make half of it women, and at the leadership level and above, that is just something that has made a huge impact that I've seen, and I've only been there for a couple of years.
How has the entire dynamic changed now in the office, in the team?
It's amazing.
With so many more women.
Well, I will tell you, the biggest challenge I've had is most of those women in these leadership roles are of the age of like, wait, they might want to have a baby. Yeah. and we have no idea how to do that in football, at least not at our club, because we have never had that. We had coaches who had wives, and coaches are like, God love them, especially ours. They are like, it's like Mad Men. Like their wives stay home and they raise the kids, and it's this very cute thing, and I don't understand that world, but it exists, and it's right down the hall for me. And that is how our programs are set up. So I look around and I'm like, oh no, what if someone gets pregnant? Like, what do we do? And then what happens? Like, do we even have a lead policy? It turned out we didn't, so we had to figure that out. Like, we had to write one. Like, it was just like, we didn't have any of that, and it wasn't because we were trying to do the wrong thing. It was just because there weren't any women, and then no one got pregnant. So now, fortunately, we had our first one. She had the baby. It was great. And literally 6 women came into me when this woman announced that she was pregnant, a vice president announced she was pregnant. 6 women came into me within 24 hours, and they were like, we're watching. We are watching you, Catherine. And it wasn't like a supportive, we're watching. It was like, we're watching. Like, if she can't have this baby with leave and all this other stuff, we're out. Yeah. Like, it was a throwdown. I was like, all right, it's on, let's go. Yeah. So we came up with a policy, we came with these programs. This was all within, she just had the baby like last month. So we've got 3 more that are pregnant, they've now told us. And we're just like, all right, I guess I did okay. Because they're staying and they're here and they're all director level and above. And it's just this amazing thing to see. Now, I don't know what's gonna happen next. She's coming back in another month, so we'll have to figure that out. But we're there and we're working in their channeling. So I think one person can do it. We have to hold each other accountable, like you were saying. We have to do a lot of research, and sometimes that research is just the 2 of us making up the data and seeing what happens and then kind of writing that down. But you just have to do it. You have to start somewhere, and forgiveness is better than permission. Yeah, always.
No, I love that. I love that. And Karen, what more do you want to do? I know you have a million programs, but I also know that your wheels are always turning for more ideas. What more do you want to see? Maybe not just in New York, everywhere, nationally in racing.
Well, I like when you said if you had $1 million. Is that how much you said? I don't know if that's enough, but yeah. If I had $1 million, I would have brought 10 girls, 10 women with me here today. Yeah.
We can do that next year. Can we sponsor that?
And it makes me emotional because they're hardworking women. Mm-hmm. I see that. They don't work half as hard as I do. I mean, I'm busy all the time, but these women are, day in and day out. They love the horses. I give respect to the horses. But they are, I got a text message, and that's why I'm thinking about it. They sent me a picture of some of the ladies from the backstretch. And they said, the ladies of racing are cheering you on. Yeah.
I know that you said you have 3 sons, but do you feel like you have hundreds of daughters?
I think that's why I started the girls mentoring program because of that. I always wanted a girl. I didn't get one, so now I have 25. Yeah, I would love to see more backstretch representation. I don't know if there's anybody from the backstretch here. I'm sorry, I didn't know. Come and say hello to me after. But if there isn't, then maybe next year, some of those girls, I mean, we want to see this industry continue to grow. We want more women in the industry, then let's get the girls in here. The girls of the backstretch community are, they're the ones who are closest to the horses. Because if you think about it, the people who are working in the offices, your kids are going to go to school and they're going to choose whatever career they want. But the people that are growing up, raising their children, in the backstretch, they are so close to the horse. If we don't allow them to be exposed to things like this, then we need to see young faces like that young lady right there. We should see a lot more next year, and I hope that we do. And that would be one thing that I would do, just expose the girls to this. And we all know the backstretch is made up of mostly minority groups, and so let's give them the chance, right? We want inclusivity, we want diversity. Let's give these girls the opportunity to dream and to achieve those dreams. As far as the women goes, the same way. Maybe they're older, maybe they think, I'm not, I didn't get to go to school, I didn't get to do this, but they can pass the knowledge on to their kids or or nieces or whatever it is in their lives to encourage them to continue on. We need more young people in the industry. So let's think about how we can, continue to inspire them to come in. And, that reminds me of something that we did with the therapy, like you said. Yes, I love horses. I stay like 5-6 feet away. But I took my girls to a riding academy. That was very expensive, but we got a generous sponsor who covered the cost. And these girls were loving it because, whether you like to believe it or not, the majority of the backstretch kids in New York are not allowed in the barn area. So they don't really get to touch and see the horses up close. So then I said, they need to know what their parents do. So we had an experience for them, an all-day experience. I told the riding academy, yes, they're going to ride the horses, but I want you to have them do all the stuff that happens in the barn, to like groom the horse and clean the stalls and everything. So like their parents would normally do. So they had that experience, and all the girls came out of there, of course, excited because they all rode horses, but also understanding the work that their parents do and how difficult it is and how valuable it is for this industry. So one of the girls was scholarship to go back, and she did 2 weeks of horseback riding, and she loved it so much. She is dreaming of becoming a jockey, and I hope she achieves those dreams, And it would be wonderful to see more women riding horses. We have a few in New York, and it's so cool. Like when I see them, I'm always like, girl power, let's go. It's exciting. So yeah, if I had $1 million, if I still have money left, I think I would continue on to provide any type of resources and tools to make sure that women can look at themselves in the mirror and, like our friend said earlier, and say that they're beautiful, they're valuable, they're smart, and that they can do it, all things. Because it's, through God and their faith and their family that they have this strength to be able to move forward. Yeah.
I think as we've talked, and we're almost out of time, the one thing I said at the beginning is you guys are all doers, you're go-getters, and I think that comes from a certain sense of self and a certain confidence. And one thing that I tell my kids all the time is being ready is not a feeling, it's a choice. You choose to be ready. You're not going to feel ready all the time for what you want to do. So I'm curious for all of you where that comes from. Like Chanel, where does your confidence come from? Where does your trailblazing energy come from? Where did that start, and what kind of fostered that in you to be the woman you are?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I wake up every day and tell myself that I am awesome and I can go do everything. But on a serious note, it's because of my why, right? The reason why I have the confidence is because I got a community of people who are waiting for this door to be open, and somebody's got to do it, and so it's got to be me, right? And so that's the reason why I got to go confidently. I got to trailblaze. I got to do this because I got little girls and little boys who are looking forward or are waiting for somebody to look like them in this industry, and to do it well. And so every time I step foot in the arena, every time I step foot on panels like this, right, I'm so gracious that I had the opportunity to be able to do this. I got to represent. Representation matters. And I got to show up, I got to show out, and I got to do it good.
Yes. You've done it today, that is for sure. Annise, I want to know from you, you're still so young, and you started your company so young. Where did that entrepreneurial spirit come from? Where did your confidence come from to just go for it?
Still working on the confidence piece. Definitely have a lot of imposter syndrome going on, but the one thing I can say is this industry has given me so much in such a short period of time, whether it's at the really small level of a tiny racetrack or, getting to travel the world, getting to travel across the U.S. It has funded a lot of my education. It has brought me the most incredible friends, the most amazing significant other. And so, I don't know where I would be today if it weren't for horse racing. I might still be living in Fargo, North Dakota, which is not a bad place, but I don't want to live there. And so I just want to be able to give those opportunities to other youth and young adults and make sure that they know that they have the tools in their handbag to be able to pursue these kinds of opportunities, and that they can aspire to do the same things that I've been able to do.
Catherine, for you, where does your confidence come from, and your leadership come from?
So I am older than the two of them put together. And there were any women everywhere. So I knew no other way than I was going to be the only woman in the room. So it wasn't like a confidence thing. It was just like, all right, well, I'm in banking, I'm in the Army, there's not going to be any women. That's just how it was. So I think the confidence was more a byproduct of you just have to show up because there's no one else there. So you're there. So you got to do it. So it's on you.
Show up, girl.
Yeah, you just got to show up. Like, that's it. That's my only rule.
Right.
Do you get nervous?
Get in
Did you
there.
get nervous in any of these
I'm
scenarios,
a
or you
complete
just go
introvert,
for
which
it?
This is like my personal hell right now. For sure. I recharge in the quiet space downstairs. I was like, oh, this is nice. There's no one here. So yeah, I get nervous, but I don't get nervous from a confrontation. I love confrontation. I love challenges, and I love all those obstacles. Those are things that are great because it's me, it's the obstacle. We're going to figure this out, and I'm going to win. Like, that's how it is. So I think those are the differences. And my nervousness is more like this.
Yeah. Me too, to be fair. The camera is one thing. Like,
I
the
don't know
whole
how you do
group
the
is
camera.
another.
I can't. Then I'm like, it's not talking back. What's happening? What do I do? It's
Karen, how
amazing.
about you? Where does your inspiration, your confidence, and your drive to just be relentless with what you do and to continue to create, where does it come from?
Again, after meeting the people in the backstretch, and I'm Hispanic, I'm also an immigrant, and understanding that a lot of them didn't have the opportunities that I had, educationally or just culturally, I just said I have to be a voice for the women and the girls, all of them, the whole community. But I say, I'm also like you. Inside, I'm rocking right here. I'm just rocking in my face.
It's almost time for the cocktails, I think.
And
We're almost done.
Can we have some?
but really, it's to be their voice, because, like I said earlier, it's like a divine call in my life to just help people. And there I go again. Okay, hold on.
You do so much, though. Can we round of applause for Karen? I mean, this woman does not stop. You are a savior for so many people. Do you want to move to California and help us here?
Okay.
We'll take it.
I'm good. Thank you for the clap. And I have to say, there's one motto that I have, is that I was called to be light and salt in my community. So light, to just bring out whatever it is, that the needs that there are, to see them, to be aware of them, and to be able to meet those needs. And salt, to give flavor and to give healing to those who need it.
Bravo. Ladies, thank you. Thank you very much for just being yourselves and for sharing your brilliance. Do we have any questions before we wrap it up? I think we've just about hit our time. I'll come to you.
Thank you. All of you talked about the responsibility, the accountability that all of us have to welcome people in, to break the barriers of entry. I am not yet in a leadership position in my organization. Not yet. Will be one day. But what does it look like for someone like me, who's coming into this? I'm young, just starting out, but I want to accept that responsibility, right? What are the tangibles? What are the things that you need? Because I'm not in nonprofit work, not in the leadership role yet. What are the things that we need from people who are in their current positions, and, answering the call on their life to continue doing that, even if it's not in a role of nonprofit work?
Well, I'd say that, I think you have to have a passion for whatever you want to do, and you also have to have knowledge on what you're doing. I think as a woman, we've been talking about this all day, when you know that you know about something, or you've been given the task to do something and you just become real good at it, you give passion into it, and, a little bit of salt, like I said, just flavor into what you do. I think that makes you stand out. Some people work to get promoted. I mean, I've always just worked to see the fruit of what I'm doing. That's enough for me. Obviously, after you see the fruit of what is done and people see it, I mean, it's going to happen. It's going to come. Your growth is in leadership or whatever area of work you do. But if your drive is to see that what you're doing is giving fruit, and you're seeing the response, and you're seeing that it's working, then I think that's enough to get you to keep moving and growing and, going on up, I think. No?
Right. Mm-hmm. And I'd also say you don't have to be in a leadership position to create any kind of change, to be a trailblazer or anything. Girl, create your own space because you are enough. You can do it. You see a void clearly, and it's going to be your calling. So you go ahead and do whatever it is that you need to do to go ahead and, create that change that you want to see, because we got social media out here. We got podcasts. We got so many different avenues for you to have your own voice and for you to stand on top of your voice. Girl, you don't need nobody to stand on top of your voice, okay? You are enough, so go ahead and stand up and you go ahead and advocate for whatever it is that you want to advocate for. Because when I decided that I was going to go ahead and become a professional rider again and go to the Olympics, nobody gave me permission to do that. I gave myself permission to do that. I'm giving you permission to go do whatever you want to do and be your own advocate and a leader in the space that you create.
But you don't need her permission.
Facts. Facts, girl. Big facts.
Hello. My question is mainly for Karen, but I've grown up on the racetrack my entire life. I became a jockey. My dad's a trainer. So I've had the very fortunate upbringing of my dad being a trainer and being kind of like on the upper scale rather than my dad being a hot walker or a groom. And I work with so many backstretch workers every single day, and I see kind of the cycle of the kids becoming what their parents are, which is great. Like, we need young people to be grooms and be hot walkers. We need them. But also, what is the biggest step that you can make to see, like, make them see that they can be more than that?
Yeah, I think it all goes back to trainers in their barns. If they're able to, is there a way, I'm asking this question, right? Is there a way that the young people that work in the barns can climb up a ladder, So in New York, I have one young man who actually did that. He was a hot walker, and he decided to go back because it was a lot of struggles in his life, a lot of things going on with his parents. His parents both worked in the barns, and he decided to go back as a hot walker, but then he knew it deep down inside that there was so much more that he could do. We thought he would go to school and do something different, but he ended up actually just going to school and deciding, you know what, I really want to stay in horse racing. And the trainer that was helping him, I guess he saw that. He saw the drive in him, like what I was telling you before, and he was the one who encouraged him and helped him to climb up the ladder of, success in the barn. So he is, he has big dreams, and he is just hanging out in places like this and meeting the right people that are helping him to move on forward. And I hope one day, very soon, I'll see him do what his dream is, which is also to train. So he's been given the opportunity by a trainer to be able to do that. But again, we have to go back to like how they need to know what what resources, what tools they have in order to get there. But if nobody tells them, then how will they know? Yeah.
Anybody else? Any other questions? Oh, sorry.
My question is do industry stakeholders see the importance of your programs for, recruiting the workforce, and as well as these things? Have you guys had a lot of support from the industry stakeholders, so racetracks, racing associations, and stuff like that?
We've had, from Amplify's perspective, we've had tremendous support so far, which has been awesome. A couple of our big stakeholders that jumped on right away were Keeneland, Churchill Downs, Breeders' Cup, the Jockey Club, Godolphin. It was an immediate yes for them, and several of those organizations gave long-term, like multi-year commitments so that they saw us actually get going, because that's a big thing with nonprofits, is sustaining them over time, and especially when you have a startup, making sure that you don't just get started, you have a foundation to, set your roots down and actually get your programs going. So we still have a long ways to go. It's a challenge when you're the fundraiser, the marketer, the program creator, the mentorship program director, doing all the things. But that's where, welcome and invite anybody in this room to consider becoming a mentor, because we can only invite as many mentees as we have people to mentor them. Consider volunteering, or if you have, an idea for a program that you could help with, all of those things help. We want to amplify existing initiatives, or if you see an opportunity for something, let us know how we can help you, and then we can have those collaborative efforts to make it easier for both of us.
Anybody else? Yeah.
Okay, I really don't have a question, but I have a comment for Karen.
Is it gonna make me cry?
Maybe.
Maybe.
I'm gonna try. Especially Latino on the backside. I feel like there is opportunities for them, especially in the racing office. Coming from working in the racing office and doing what I do now, but I see there's a need for Spanish speakers, especially. We had a young lady, she now works for Iste right now. I don't know if anybody knows her. Her name is Brenda Jones. She used to work for Tampa, and she was a steward's secretary, and she was like the core to the Hispanic community. But she helped, and she continued to help a bunch of jockeys that, they really, may have a lack of English. And she's just been, pretty much the leader of helping everyone get their stuff together for Iste, because everybody knows that it is difficult whenever you have to fill out your portal and all that stuff. But I feel like there needs to be some type of education for the backside workers, because they don't always have to work on the backside. I think a lot of them think that's all they're gonna do and that's all they can do. And I think, Annise, I think if you can try to incorporate somehow the backside workers or something, to give them that education and know that you can work at the racing office, and there is a need for it. I can't tell you how many times, and I'm not Hispanic. I wish I knew Spanish, I really do. But I can't tell you how many times I've taken entry and somebody would say, "Do you speak Spanish?" And I say no. And it's disappointing, because they need that connection, Yeah. And so I would say the racing office, because once you start in the racing office, it kind of helps you understand other jobs outside of the backside. And it'll show them that you don't always have to be, a groom or a hot walker. There's more stuff out there.
Right.
It's just the lack of knowledge, and also the motivation, to, say, yes, you can do it. And I think that comes to your skill, and somehow to incorporate it.
Karen and I are going to get to work on collaborating as soon as
That
we
makes
leave
me
the
so
conference.
happy.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Good job.
Oh, can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
I would be remiss if I didn't say this to my new community that I now have. I am looking for my Olympian off-the-track thoroughbred. So if anybody knows of an off-the-track thoroughbred, please, that you think has jumping qualities, let me see him.
Anybody else? Oh, yeah.
Are there any current schools in the United States right now for people to learn about horses?
Racetrack programs and racetrack management. Well, Annise, I think you can talk a little bit about the Flying Start, right?
Yeah, and just
It's
an
not necessarily
overview
a
of
school.
programs in general. So there are several high schools around the U.S. That have agriculture-focused programs. So they might be like an alternative high school. We have one in Lexington, Kentucky that's called Locust Trace, where high school students actually, as part of their regular curriculum, get to go to an actual equine program as well. And then they're already prepared to go into like a vocational trade right after high school. At the college level, the University of Arizona Racetrack Industry Program is a thoroughbred industry focused program for your degree. I know we have several graduates who are in the audience who could do a much better job of talking about it than I can. University of Louisville has an industry program. There's several universities across the U.S. that have, equine science and management type programs. So there are lots of them out there, racing specific ones. University of Kentucky has a breeding program as part of their curriculum. So they're definitely out there. And I'd be happy to talk to you more afterwards if you want more resources about how to look them up.
And I'd like to add, in Lexington, there is a therapeutic program called Central Kentucky Riding for the Hope, and they have a program called Stables, which is an alternative program for high schoolers. If they are not doing well in just traditional high school, they can go to Stables, and they learn horse care, and they do their schoolwork too.
We have a program at Belmont and where it's just how to care for a horse, like a 101 workshop for people who come to work in the barn areas that are new to horse racing and thoroughbred horses. So I think that's even though it's very simple and basic, it's really important because of the type of care that the animals need. It's probably a program that should be adapted by every single track.
Anyone else? I don't think so. Thank you, ladies, very much. Oh, one more.
I have a call to action to all of you ladies. Like I said earlier, I'd love to see more women or girls from the backstretch community here. But even to go a little bit further, the call to action is that each and every one of you takes an opportunity at one point, in the next 12 months to meet someone, a woman or a girl from the backstretch community and invest in their lives and encourage them because they really need it. And coming from you guys, to them is very valuable and they would very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Ladies, thank you so much. Stand up and get your picture. But before everyone gets up and scrambles to the bar, I'm obviously back here, so I'll be the last one there. We'd just like to remind you that tomorrow morning we have the workshop and think tank that starts at 9:30.